Hello everyone and welcome back to TradeStars Cricket Diaries by Cricket Cult. I'm Lakshya Malhotra and I have with me as usual Siddharth Luthra. And today everyone's happy because we know that cricket is back again and we'll be seeing live action in forms of the Test cricket between England versus New Zealand and the IPL coming soon in September. And so everyone has cricket on their mind and everyone's happy that they get to see live action again. But the one thing that also happens is everybody heads on to the fantasy apps and TradeStars to make their investments and pick their players. So Sid, given that now the cricketing fever is back and everybody's going to head off to TradeStars and make their investments, what is the one fantasy tip that you would give them for TradeStars? That it's a unique, because it's a unique platform. So there would be one fantasy tip for them, for our fans out there.
So fantasy tips has become a huge industry, Lakshya. Like you know, day in and day out, you get requests for some of the other platform to give a fantasy tip. But here's where TradeStars is unique. You know what their tagline is? What's your sports knowledge worth? Now the answer lies in their tagline. So basically, here you don't have to make an 11 on 11 team as we discussed before. Here you just have to identify a talent, pick the fantasy stock of that player, and back that. If they fail in a couple of matches, right? And then you'll see short gains if you have made the right choice, right? So the one tip which is a short money maker on the TradeStars platform is the ability to identify and nurture a talent, which is exactly, if you think about it, what a cricket captain does, isn't it, Lakshya?
Exactly, and I think the Indian cricket team has been very lucky because we've had some really amazing talent identifiers who picked the right talent and backed them, and we've seen what they've done for us. And in today's episode, we'll be talking about such talent identifiers, captains of the Indian team who've really identified and scouted talent and then backed them, and we've seen what they've done. And the four captains we'll be talking about today are Mohammed Azharuddin, Sourav Ganguly, MS Dhoni, and Virat Kohli. So let's get down to our first captain, our first talent identifier. That's Mohammed Azharuddin. So Sid, what do you think about Mohammed Azharuddin?
So, before I start with Mohammed Azharuddin, just one qualification for the viewers. It is not our intention to say that these great players became great only because someone was a captain. Like, for instance, Sachin Tendulkar did not become great because his first captain was Krishnamacharya Srikanth. What we are trying to say is that you can only perform if the atmosphere is created like that. If you're given the opportunity, I mean, you may be Brian Lara or Sachin Tendulkar, but if you're not given the opportunity at the right time or at the right place, then what good is your talent? So anyways, coming back to Mohammed Azharuddin, I mean, some of the players that came under him and were nurtured by him became all-time greats, not only in Indian cricket but world cricket. In fact, if I were to ask you like an all-time 11 of an Indian team, right? There'll be like 2-3 of these names I'm going to name now. So someone like a Sourav Ganguly or a Rahul Dravid, who incidentally debuted, they made their debut together. So in that very tour, there were people like Sanjay Manjrekar, Navjot Singh Sidhu. Some person got injured, the other fought with someone, Navjot Singh Sidhu. Their attitude was a problem. But so Azrudin said that I'm going to back the youngsters, and 4 or 5 people made their debuts, including Venkatesh Prasad, who was another great player for the Indian team. Just a piece of trivia: even India's batting coach Vikram Rathore made his debut on that tour. But coming back to Sourav Ganguly and Rahul Dravid, so they were backed by Azharuddin, and they became all-time greats of Indian cricket. You look at someone like a VVS Lakshman, who also came under the captaincy and tutelage of Mohammed Azharuddin. Came from the same state. Comes from the same state, in fact, and you can see the Azharuddin flair in his batting. Someone like a Javigal Srinath. I mean, once Kapil Dev retired, he was Mohammed Azharuddin's go-to fast bowler, and I think he still would be in an all-time Indian Test 11. So, that tells you how good a talent identifier he was. What do you think about Sourav Ganguly? I'm sure you're spoiled for choices.
Well, I think the contribution that Sourav Ganguly has made for Indian cricket is so immense and so large that had he not backed some of the players that he did back and he did select, I don't think we would have won some of the trophies that we did eventually win. Because the first example that I get in my mind is Yuvraj Singh. Because we remember that there were questions about Yuvraj Singh's personality and there were questions about his performance. And all Sourav Ganguly said is that it doesn't really matter what he's doing off the pitch so long as he's performing for me on the pitch. I see a great player in him and I'm going to back him. And he did. And we know what Yuvraj Singh's done in 2007 and 2011 World Cup. We know how great a player he went on to become. And I think Sourav Ganguly saw that spark in him that necessarily made him back him. And we know the rest is history. I think another one that comes at the top of my mind is Virender Sehwag. Because I think Virender Sehwag was sort of in a place where he was in the team when the middle order was so good that it had players like VVS Lakshman and Sachin Tendulkar and Sourav Ganguly, that there was no place for Virender Sehwag. And so either he had to play at a position he wasn't playing before, or he had to sit out. And Sourav Ganguly said, listen, why don't you open? And he opened, and he's one of the best openers that India has had. So I think Sourav Ganguly gave him that confidence and that atmosphere where he said that go and open and we'll see how you do. And he did great. So I think that Virender Sehwag is another player that Dada backed, and we know how great Sehwag is. If I can remember a bowler, I think Harbhajan Singh is another one that Sourav Ganguly backed, because in 2001 when he had that dream tour, I think Sourav Ganguly said that, listen, if I'm going to play this match, I want Harbhajan Singh as my spinner, because I think that he's the one who can, he's the game changer. I think he's the one who can really turn it in our favor. And we know what a beautiful tour he had and how his graph just went upwards from there. Because I think Dada was the one who said that Harbhajan Singh will probably go on to become in India's finest spinners. And Harbhajan Singh then showed us his contributions even in the 2011 World Cup. So definitely, on the top of my mind, Dada has so many contributions, but these three players are definitely the top three according to me. Well,
so no, in fact, with Sourav Ganguly, as I said, one is spoiled for choices. I mean, when you identify a talent, when you identify an asset, the returns can be either short term or long term. With Sourav Ganguly, the beautiful thing for Indian cricket was the returns were short term and long term. So you look at someone like a Zaheer Khan or an Ashish Nehra, or a Mahendra Singh Dhoni. How can you forget Mahendra Singh Dhoni? Remember when Mahendra Singh Dhoni was sent at one down, and he established himself. Before that there were question marks, right? And then there was this guy who could bat faster than Sehwag, who could hit those big sixes. You look at the 2011 World Cup. This is the long-term gains I'm talking about. Who was your captain? Mahendra Singh Dhoni, backed by Sourav Ganguly. Who was your star opening batsman apart from Sachin Tendulkar? Virender Sehwag, identified by Sourav Ganguly. Who was the highest wicket taker for India? Zaheer Khan, identified by Sourav Ganguly. Who was the man of the tournament? Yuvraj Singh, identified by Sourav Ganguly. So look at his contribution. Talking about major contributions in Indian cricket, one cannot forget India's most successful ODI captain in Mahendra Singh Dhoni. So again, you look at he's criticized because he didn't back Gautam Gambhir or he didn't back Virender Sehwag. But look what he did in that 2013 Champions Trophy. Who are your two standout performers in that 2013 Champions Trophy? Shikhar Dhawan, Rohit Sharma. And if you have to add a bowler, then Ravindra Jadeja. All backed by Mahendra Singh Dhoni. Right? You talked about Sourav Ganguly asking Virender Sehwag to open, and which made him a great player. Something similar happened with Rohit Sharma in the ODI format. In fact, now he's opening in Test cricket also, and very successfully so. So this is the immense contribution and of these captains and talent identifiers. Giving, as I said in the beginning, giving the right opportunity at the right time is what makes you a great talent identifier. Now, the biggest example, Virat Kohli. I know everyone talks about the 2014 dismal England tour, and then what if he was dropped after that? He was back, right? But people forget, Virat's entry into Test cricket wasn't the greatest. Against West Indies, he got out on the short ball. He struggled against the short ball, right? And then you go to Australia, he still backs him. He fails in the first two Test matches, keeps on missing the in-swinger, gets LBW, right? Third Test match, Sehwag comes up and says that, why don't we try Rohit Sharma? But I don't know what, but Dhoni said no, we have to back Virat Kohli, and that's where he changed everything. With that amazing knock at Perth and then that century at Adelaide, right? That is where the thing. You look at Ravichandran Ashwin, nurtured by Mahendra Singh Dhoni with such care, and he's going to become India's all-time leading wicket taker, in my opinion. So these things keep on playing in rewind with Indian cricket, and we are lucky to have such talent identifiers. What about Virat Kohli?
Yeah, I think because you talked about Virat Kohli as a player, I think when MS Dhoni backed him, Virat Kohli realizes the importance of backing your players, because he was once backed by his captain, and today he backs his players, and we've seen how advantageous it has been, and I'm sure he'll continue to do this. So I think that Virat Kohli is probably backed someone like a KL Rahul. Very recently, we've seen that KL Rahul had a string of low scores, and Virat Kohli still backed him, because in the interview he was straight up asked that KL Rahul isn't performing and you have two openers on the bench. Why isn't anyone playing? He said that we have learned to back our players. He's performed previously, and we're going to show faith in him. And then he went on to score 100 in I think the ODI. So I think this baton is passed from one captain to the other of investing in your players and making sure that you see their value and they become assets for the Indian cricket team. And I think Virat Kohli is doing the same thing. He's doing the same thing with Jasprit Bumrah. When Jasprit Bumrah replaced Ishant Sharma in the test side, or when Virat Kohli said that Jasprit Bumrah is going to be our prime bowler, and we know how deadly he is with his Yorkers and his in-swingers. And this is something that Virat Kohli saw, and he will continue to do it. He does the same thing with Hardik Pandya, for instance, because we know that in between Hardik Pandya didn't really have the best of performances, but Virat Kohli said that he's someone who can change the game with a bat, ball, and in the field. And this kind of an asset for an Indian team is so essential that we can never let him go. And it's just a matter of time when we see the best of Hardik Pandya, even better than the ones that we've seen, all because Virat Kohli decided to back him. So I think that you're right when you say that backing your players necessarily leads to these outcomes. And these four captains that we've just discussed have always done this in the past. But
even Lakshay, even someone like a UZ Chahal, it was a harsh call to drop Ashwin from the ODI team and get a young leggy, because wrist spinners were the go-to property in ODI cricket at that time, and he's India's lead white ball spinner now. So you make a good point.
I think definitely Yuzvendra Chahal is another example of how Virat Kohli has backed his players and said that we're going to go ahead with you. And we've seen how Yuzvendra Chahal has been so important. But now we've discussed four players. Sid, according to you, who is that one talent identifier? And I don't mean captain. I mean that one talent identifier that has either changed the fortunes of Indian cricket or has necessarily changed the course of history for Indian cricket.
Lakshay, I don't want to disappoint Dhoni and Kohli fans, but the answer lies in our discussion. Look, we had the most number of names for Sourav Ganguly. I just made you count who contributed in the 2011 World Cup, right? I'm not talking about captaincy, but if you're just talking about an eye for talent, there is no one in Indian cricket who has or maybe will come close to Sourav Ganguly.
Definitely, I totally agree with you, because like we just said, that 2011 World Cup was a team of backed players by Dada, and his contribution to Indian cricket will always be remembered in terms of these players. That's it from us, guys, in this video. I hope you have some players in your mind as well who you think were talent identifiers for the Indian team, and some players who were identified and did really well. Let us know in the comment section below who were these captains or who were these talent identifiers, and who were these players according to you that necessarily changed the fortunes of the Indian cricket team. And like, comment, share and subscribe Cricket Cult. Keep following for more such episodes and videos. In the description below, we've also added the link for TradeStars platform. Go ahead, make your picks, make your investments. And are you a talent identifier? We'll know only once you make your investments. We'll see you in the next episode. It's goodbye from me and goodbye from Siddrath. Take care.
See you, folks.